Hi, everyone. This is Delalić, and I'm the product manager for Group Import here at GitLab. Today, I'm going to take another look at the migration from GitHub into GitLab to show the current user experience and note any opportunities for improvement. I'll start by logging into my GitHub account to review my data before the migration. So this is the look at my GitHub account that I have created for the purpose of playing with the migration. Here I have created two repositories, one for the website and one for the backend. These repositories have several files in them, a couple of issues each, some with labels, some without. I also have created two different projects which have boards associated with those. The issues themselves have a couple of different activities on each one of them. So similar for the other repository, I do have a couple of issues. This particular one does have some formatting in the description, as well as an image that I would like to see migrated into GitLab. There's also a comment that I expect to be there, as well as labels. I do have a milestone named R2 that this issue is associated with. And I'm curious to see how all of that data looks once migrated into GitLab. So the project has 2 people associated with it. And there are also 4 teams associated with the project. One of them, the team Avengers, is connected to the website repository. So that is the data that I have in GitHub. I'm going to switch over to GitLab now to perform an import and then compare which data has come across and what data did not come across. So in GitLab, I have a group that I would like to use to create a project that I want to migrate into. So I will start by clicking the new project button here in order to initiate the import. I could have also done that through the add button at the very top navigational menu and then selected new project repository, and it would have gotten me through the same workflow. So out of all these choices here, I'm going to select import project because I want to import from GitHub. And these are all of my different import sources. GitHub is the one I'm going to select. So clicking on this, I see all of my historical imports into GitLab, as well as the projects that are available to be imported. And sometimes this could be a long list. So I'm actually going to use the filter here because I know that the 2 projects I care about both start with git dash. So I'm going to filter for that, and I see that these are the 2 projects that I was looking to migrate. Well, first one called the website and the second one called the backend. So I'm going to change where I would like to import these into. I'm going to select my GitHub group as the target. And so noticing that the default on the two GitLab, the default group that I was importing into was my personal namespace, and not the project, not the group that I have selected the new project from. So that's something that, I would have expected. I would have thought that if I was on the GitHub import group and I clicked new project there, that I would end up importing into that group by the time I got here. But that seems to have gotten lost, and I had to like reselect the fact that I wanted to get to migrate these projects into the GitHub import group and not into my personal namespace. So there's definitely an area for improvement. So it seems like this user interface does not let me select a subset of imports to run. So if there were some imports that I wanted to run and some that I didn't, I wouldn't have a way of kicking off both of those at the same time. Now that I've actually narrowed this down to the two that I care about, it seems like I could hit the import to repositories button and import both of them at the same time. Just for the sake of checking out what happens, I will click on these individual import buttons one at a time and just kick off two separate processes. So the importing to repositories was grayed out. So that's great. So I can't like kick that back, restart those imports once they're kicked off. I noticed that the status for each one of these went to scheduling and then to importing. And I wonder how long it does take to import these. These are not large projects. So is it possible that the imports have completed and I just don't have a real-time status here? To check that, I will refresh the page to see if that's something. Yep, and that's exactly what had happened. So my two projects were imported here and here. However, the status page seemed to be stuck on importing. So this is definitely a bug that we need to address. So going to visit the project now to compare what we have gotten there. So kind of looking overall, it does seem like I have 3 commits on the backend. And let me just open the same project here in GitHub. So yes, 3 commits, all 3 have come across. 3 issues. And if you remember, that issue about DB creation did have these 2 labels, enhancement and good first issue, as well as it was associated to the R2 milestone. It also knows that I was the creator of that issue. So all that seems to have come across quite nicely. Opening up the issue to inspect and see if there's anything that did not come across or anything that seems to be off, comparing it to the GitHub issue. Looks like it is all there, including the comment. So that's there. Now looking at the group itself, I do see that the two projects have come across. I see a total of 5 issues, which is what I would have expected. I do not see anywhere where we would have gotten the teams imported. And that kind of makes sense because teams belong to the top level namespace in GitHub. So my namespace in GitHub has 2 repositories and 4 teams. So the fact that I imported each one of these repositories as a separate project tells me that that import wouldn't have gotten the teams imported. And I know that teams and repositories in GitHub have a many-to-many connection. So thinking about what I would have even expected this to be in GitLab, I would think that teams sound a lot like a group, but I wouldn't be able to have a many-to-many relationship between groups and projects in GitLab. So this concept doesn't seem to have a direct correlation. We could still probably think about whether there's a way to maybe flatten the data a little bit and still get these teams imported as groups, even if they're not necessarily connected to the repositories in GitLab. So maybe these teams become subgroups and the 2 repositories become 2 sub-projects under the group I'm importing into, but there may not be necessarily a relationship that exists in GitHub translated into GitLab. So that could be a potential solution. So at least we have all the components there in GitLab, even if they're not connected in the same way that they are in GitHub. Other than that, it seems like everything else has come across. So again, looking at the project labels, the good first issue has come across, the enhancement has come across. So the labels have definitely made it across. So I think this is all that I'm going to take a look at today. Overall, the process went okay. Notably, few UI issues that we're going to have to follow up on and see why that status hasn't refreshed, as well as looking into how we would potentially map teams to GitLab. Those are going to be things that we'll need to follow up on, but overall pretty smooth and fast experience importing from GitHub into GitLab. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough as much as I did. Bye.